Hey guys, my name is Pat Drury, and welcome to the first episode of the Follow Your Blisters podcast. And this is a podcast specifically designed to provide practical, applicable information about the hero's journey. So why does this podcast exist? Because, well, right now I'm in the process of creating a graphic novel, a comic book that explains the hero's journey. And as I'm doing that, and I'm doing my due diligence of research, one of the things I discover is the internet is full of bad information about the hero's journey. There just seems to be a lot of misunderstandings about what it is, and even where to find good information on it. And in the future episodes, I'll get into why I think that is. But for now, I just wanted to get us started, and for the very first episode, lay out a resource of exactly what is the hero's journey, as described by Joseph Campbell. And so I'm a big Joseph Campbell fan. He has influenced my thinking on a number of topics in a number of areas, and I think it's a really valuable point of view that he offers, not just about mythology and mythological topics, but about life in general. So I'm going to start out just by answering the question: what is the hero's journey? You'd be forgiven for thinking that it was a tool for writers, or maybe something that marketers use. And in defense of those 2 points of view, it can be used very effectively to help writers craft stories. It can be and has been used in marketing, but at its heart, that's not what it is. That's an adaptation of it. Both those things are adaptations of it. What it is, what the hero's journey is, as conceived by Joseph Campbell, is just a pattern that he noticed in the various mythologies and religious stories of the world. He looked at those and he compared those, and he saw, if you look at a lot of these stories, there's kind of this same pattern repeating and repeating and repeating. He kind of elaborated on that cycle in miniature and in maximum, in micro and in macro. On the micro level, this journey has 3 steps: departure, initiation, return. And then he kind of elaborated on each of those and came up with what he called the monomyth, the hero's journey, which is, the monomyth is a term he took from James Joyce. But at its largest, that monomyth has 17 different steps. And so a lot of people who criticize Campbell, they'll say, well, you look at myth, and no myth contains all 17 of these steps. And I think that's true. And I don't think he ever said they did. What he said was in world myths, you see a repeating pattern. And I think you can make the case that when you look at the hero's journey, the monomyth, at that micro level, or I guess this would probably be the macro level, of the 3 steps, the departure, initiation, return, I think you can find those 3 steps in just about every mythological story. But that's, I obviously haven't researched that comprehensively. So if somebody steps up and says, yeah, what about this one? Then great, you win the argument. But in general, those 3 steps, I think, exist in most, if not all, mythological stories. But and so he noticed this pattern, and I've already mentioned it. People have taken that pattern and applied it to writing stories and to marketing. And so why do those 2 things fit so comfortably inside of a mythological pattern? And it's because I think in this mythological pattern, we see something that is inherent to human life, life on this earth. You could look at that, or departure, initiation, return, and you could rename it death, burial, and rebirth, or death, burial, and resurrection. if you want to get evangelical about it, which I'm not inclined to get evangelical about it, but that's a pattern that expresses itself in life. And you may think, really, resurrection, that's a pattern in life? And metaphorically, it is. Life, human life, animal life, earthbound life, life lives on death. So a thing is alive, it dies, and in that death, new life emerges. And so we see this in the patterns of the seasons. In fall, everything is dying, and then in winter, it's dead. Everything goes dormant under the snows in the cold, and then in spring, it emerges. We see it in animal life. One animal attacks and kills another animal, and then the nourishment that it draws from killing and eating the animal, it's able to recycle into creating new life, into reproduction. And that's kind of this cycle that life just lives on. And so in terms of writing a story, if you're going to write a story and you can lock in on that pattern of the old dying and the new emerging, then that becomes a story that resonates with us. In marketing, if you can latch on to this story of, hey, you were doing things this way and it wasn't working, let's kill that old way and start this new way with my product, then that resonates with people. And so that's why the hero's journey has been so effective in the worlds of storytelling and marketing. But I've often said in conversation, it's good at those things, but it's not what it's for. And so somebody might say, well, what's it for? Well, I don't know that if Campbell, when he was writing down these theories, if he really thought about it as being for anything initially. It was just a pattern he noticed. But over time, Campbell said, every myth is a psychological metaphor. It's a metaphor for something happening inside of us. And so looking at it that way, I think you could say what the hero's journey for is kind of a metaphorical roadmap for personal development. Each one of us goes through this departure, initiation, return cycle, this death, burial, rebirth cycle. So maybe you think one way about relationships. It's like men are this, and men will always be this, or women are this, and women will always be this, and you start to see that's not true, and so that represents the death of that old way of thinking. And then you start to go through some experiences, maybe dating experiences, maybe making friends with people of the opposite sex, and you start seeing, oh, maybe it's not that way. And so that becomes that initiation, that burial. And then finally, you have a complete change of mind. You're like, you know what, men and women can be this or that, and no person is the same just because of their sex. And so that's the birth of this new way of looking at things. And so that's this resurrection or this return. And so you can, over time, I think, learn to apply the hero's journey to any ideology, any viewpoint, any thinking inside of a person that needs to change. And it kind of shows you, if you learn, details about the hero's journey, you can learn how to kind of ease yourself through this process of change. The hero's journey at its heart is really about change, and it becomes a roadmap for how to navigate those changes. Now that's 101. That's hero's journey as Campbell described it, what it's for, what it does, where it came from. But as I've studied it, I've kind of come up with what I think is another workable theory for what it is. And so this theory requires us to kind of have a view of the world that, or life and the way things work that allows for an outside mover, kind of. You could call that God, you could call that source, you could call that the universe. Like there's something that is interceding in and around us at times, or at least has a plan that it kind of pushes towards. And so for me, I it's, you can ask, why does the hero's journey exist? Why is this pattern repeating? And Campbell would kind of say it's something that emerges from the human unconscious. But I think that at that point you could still ask yourself, well, why? Who put it there? Why is this in the human unconscious? And you could probably answer that question without going outside of human development like I am. But I think the hero's journey describes describes the actions of a human antibody, or a universal antibody. And so that's kind of a big weird thing to say. So let me explain. Human beings, you get a bunch of us together and we're going to clump. We're going to clump into tribes and families and civilizations and communities and clubs and industries. We tend to do that. We're like, we're united by this, so we're going to hang out over here. We're united by this, and we're going to hang out over here. And these clumps are really beneficial. They give us things like civilization and infrastructure and social services. When a bunch of us get together, we start thinking, how can we make life better for each other? And these things emerge. And so that's really great. That's one of the benefits of this clumping. But unfortunately, over time, these clumps begin to institutionalize. And so when something institutionalizes, it becomes less concerned with how do we help the people that are a part of this clump. It becomes less concerned with that, more concerned with how do we make sure this clump continues? How do we make sure this clump thrives? And sometimes it's even at the expense of the people in the clump. The clump becomes the thing and the people stop being the thing. And so that's a danger of these clumps. And so the hero's journey, to me, describes an event where a member of that clump says, you know what, things are kind of going off the rails. We're kind of doing things wrong. We're not helping people the way we were. We're not serving each other's needs anymore. And they figure out a way to kind of temporarily step outside of the clump and find a solution to what's gone wrong. And then they bring that solution back into the clump. And that's the heart of the hero's journey. You go find the thing that the tribe needs and bring it back to the tribe. So I think these people, these heroes, these tribe leavers, and eventually tribe returners, they emerge, even if they don't know they're doing it on purpose, they emerge on purpose. I think the universe or source or God or whatever has designed these clumps to produce these people, these heroes, these antibodies. It's a defense mechanism that some higher power has put into us, that when we all get together and we clump up and then eventually the clump starts going wrong, it's going to produce a hero, and the hero is going to figure out what the clump needs to get back to a good place, find it, and bring it into the clump. And so because I mentioned all myths were psychological metaphors and the hero's journey is a psychological metaphor, I think even leaving the tribe to find the thing and bring it back, that's a metaphor. It's a metaphor for going inside yourself. When you're leaving the tribe, you're really kind of taking a journey in, and you're finding the thing inside you that needs to be brought out and expressed for the benefit of the tribe. And so Campbell talked about this being art a lot of times. And art, let's not say art like, paintings and galleries art, although it could be, but art could also be your art, your gift. Let's not say art. I said let's say art, but let's not say art. Let's say your gift. The hero's journey is going into yourself, finding your gift that's going to help the clump, the community, the tribe get back on track. And so, some of that is very Campbell 101, and some of it is me interpreting it in the lens of some other things like process theology, and just my own weird worldview. So that's where it is. And so this podcast is an attempt for me to share what I think is so valuable about the hero's journey in correcting the tribes that we're in. And we're all in a lot of tribes. We're in political tribes and religious tribes and industrial tribes and familial tribes. And every one of those things, as much as we may love it, as great as it may be, can and will, if given enough time, go off course. And not everybody's going to pop up and go on a hero's journey to fix that thing. Hero's journeys aren't, you could say everybody goes on one in this sense of old idea dies to a new idea emerges. Everybody does that. But not everybody leaves the tribe to go find the thing to fix the tribe. That's a very select few people that actually end up doing that and being that. And so I'm really interested in finding the others and giving them resources to say, hey, are you that person? Are you being called on a hero's journey? Have you heard the call to adventure to go out and find the thing to fix the tribe? Well, I want to give you resources to make that easier. And so that's what this podcast is. That's what the graphic novel I'm working on is me trying to introduce these ideas in a practical, helpful, applicable way, because I think the internet has largely failed at that. And imagine that, the internet failing at something. But this is one of the things it's failed at, and I want to help get us back on track. So anyway, this has been episode 1, and I'm releasing it the way you release a podcast, just as audio, but also there's video of it. So if you feel like you want to stare into my eyes as you listen to me opine on the universal defense mechanism called the hero's journey, then you have that option. And so anyway, we'll see you guys in the next episode.